Diego, a 35-year-old architect, marked by the invisible scars of severe depression, lives a methodical life in São Paulo, a fragile shield against the shadows of his past. His life changes drastically when, witnessing a street artisan lose her stall over a tiny debt, he channels his pain into purpose, using his inheritance to create Retomada, a microcredit platform for entrepreneurs ignored by the system. Forced to delve into the competitive world of finance, Diego discovers that his humanized business model is a direct threat to a powerful financial conglomerate. With the stability of dozens of families in his hands and his own mental health at stake, he must navigate a web of legal sabotage and defamation orchestrated by a ruthless executive who sees hope as a weakness to be exploited. Every small victory is followed by a major setback, and the mounting pressure begins to reopen old wounds, forcing him to question whether he can save others without destroying himself in the process. On a journey that will test the limits of his resilience, Diego will learn that true strength lies not in never falling, but in how he gets up and helps others get up. To save his legacy and himself, he must confront not only his adversary, but above all, his own fears. The climax unfolds in a crucial public hearing, where he must risk everything on a single daring gamble that could redefine everyone's future or lead him back to the abyss. Imagine facing an abyss so deep that no light reaches, and then using that darkness as the foundation to build the future of thousands of people. What happens when a man transforms his greatest pain into an empire of hope that defies the very logic of the financial market? Prepare to witness Diego's silent revolution. How the depression led him to challenge the big banks. The silence in the courtroom was heavier than any of the skyscrapers he had ever designed. Every pair of eyes, from bureaucrats to journalists, was fixed on him. Diego felt the familiar weight on his shoulders, the same gravity that once confined him to his bed for months on end. But this time, it wasn't just his own darkness. It was the future of hundreds of families, a future built on the fragile currency of empathy. Diego lived a life of right angles and precise routines. At 35, the former architect inhabited a minimalist apartment in the pulsating heart of São Paulo, a sanctuary of order against the chaos he knew his brain could become. The scars of severe depression weren't visible on his skin, but they were etched into his daily schedule. Coffee precisely at 7 in the morning, pencils aligned on his drawing table with millimeter precision, long nighttime walks along unchanging routes. He had designed buildings that scratched the clouds, cold monuments of glass and steel. But he had forgotten how to build a foundation for himself. Architecture, with its relentless demands and glorification of stress, had broken him. Now, he sought solidity in small things. On a grey Tuesday afternoon, as the smell of wet asphalt rose from the streets, this routine shattered. Near the Viaduto do Chá, he watched an artisan, a woman of perhaps 60 years old with hands stained with paint and a smile that seemed to contain all the resilience of the city. She sold small ceramic sculptures, each an explosion of color and life. Suddenly, two inspectors, with expressions of official boredom, approached. There was a brief discussion, pleading gestures from her, and then the silent brutality of bureaucracy. Her stall was dismantled, the fragile ceramics carelessly thrown into a box. The debt, Diego heard, was negligible, less than he spent on coffee in a week. The image of that woman, standing amidst the wreckage of her livelihood, her shoulders slumped in defeat, struck Diego with the force of a revived trauma. He saw not just a stranger, he saw the personification of his own struggle. Human frailty against an impersonal and crushing system. That night, for the first time in years, the lined-up pencils brought no comfort. Order seemed a lie. He picked up an extract from an inheritance he barely touched, the last vestige of his parents, and an idea began to form. It wasn't a floor plan, but a blueprint. A blueprint to build something that couldn't be measured in square meters, but in restored dignity. He would call it retaking. Retomada, recovery, wasn't born in a corporate boardroom, but at Diego's kitchen table. It was an online microcredit platform, simple in concept, but revolutionary in its essence. The principle was clear: to finance small entrepreneurs, artisans, street vendors, seamstresses, all those whom the traditional banking system considered invisible or high risk. The only criteria were passion and a viable plan, not guarantees or credit history. Using his entire inheritance as initial capital, he financed the first 10 projects. The ceramics lady, Dona Elza, was the first. With the small loan, she not only rebuilt her stall but also bought a better kiln, tripling her production. Success stories spread like wildfire. In 6 months, Retomada was supporting over 50 entrepreneurs. The platform offered more than just money. It offered a community, with workshops on basic finance and digital marketing taught by Diego himself and other volunteers. For the first time since the collapse, Diego felt a sense of purpose. He was building human bridges, not concrete gaps. However, success in a predatory ecosystem attracts predators. The threat came in the form of an envelope bearing the letterhead of the financial conglomerate Titan Capital. They didn't see a community. They saw an untapped market share being devoured by an amateur. The man behind the attack was Ricardo Vargas, an executive whose reputation was as impeccable as his morals were flexible. Vargas saw Diego's business model, based on trust and low interest rates, as a dangerous anomaly, an ideological threat to the dogma of maximum profit. The first offensive was subtle, a partnership offer, which was actually a hostile takeover attempt to absorb and dismantle Retomada's humanized model. Diego refused. Vargas's response was swift and brutal. A smear campaign began to emerge on financial blogs and social media. Anonymous articles questioned Retomada's sustainability, insinuating it was a pyramid scheme or a vanity project of a failed former architect. Entrepreneurs on the platform began receiving offers from Titan Capital, with very low initial interest rates that hid abusive clauses in the fine print. Some, desperate for more capital, gave in. The pressure on Diego was immense. Each phone call was from a panicked entrepreneur. Each email carried a new veiled, legal threat. The weight of the world he was trying to build began to crush him. Familiar shadows returned to his apartment. The routines that kept him afloat now seemed like chains. Sleep had become a luxury, and food a burden. He gazed at the São Paulo skyline from his window and saw not a city of opportunities, but a concrete jungle ready to devour him. The lowest point came on a rainy dawn. Sitting in the dark, with the menacing glow of a non-compete notice on his laptop, Diego opened the Retomada website, intending to write a closure notice. He had failed. The system was too big, the darkness within it too deep. He couldn't save others without destroying himself in the process. Just as his finger hovered over the keyboard to type the words of surrender, the doorbell rang. He ignored it. It rang again, persistently. Dragging himself to the door, he opened it and found Dona Elza and 4 other entrepreneurs from the Retomada movement standing in the hallway, holding bags of hot food. The smell of cheese bread and fresh coffee filled his aseptic apartment. They said nothing about Titan Capital or the bad news. They simply came in, set the table, and shared a meal with him. It was Dona Elza who broke the silence. "You taught us to fight, Diego. You didn't think we were going to leave you to fight this alone, did you?" That sentence was the spark. In their resilience, he found his own. The fight was no longer just his. It belonged to the entire community. The fall gave way to focused fury. Diego contacted a young, idealistic lawyer who agreed to work pro bono. Together, they began gathering evidence of Titan Capital's sabotage. They documented predatory tactics, recorded testimonies from entrepreneurs who had been deceived, and uncovered a pattern of anti-competitive behavior by Vargas's company in other sectors. The battle dragged on for weeks, a war of legal and financial attrition. The climax was set for a public hearing at the City Council, convened to debate the regulation of social impact fintechs. It was Diego's chance to present his case not only to a judge, but to the public. On the day of the hearing, the room was packed. Ricardo Vargas was there, impeccably dressed in his $1,000 suit, flanked by a team of lawyers. He spoke first, with graphs and projections, painting the recovery as an unstable financial risk. Then it was Diego's turn. He walked to the podium, not with a slide presentation, but with a small ceramic vase from Dona Elsa in his hand. He didn't talk about rates of return or risk algorithms. He talked about the hands that made that ceramic. He told the story of a father who was able to buy his son's school books by selling cakes he learned to make from his grandmother. He described the sound of a sewing machine bought with a microcredit that worked late into the night as the engine of a family's dreams. He contrasted the wealth of life that the recovery generated with the sterile wealth that Titan Capital accumulated. His voice, initially trembling, became firm and powerful. "They see these people as potential defaulters," he said, looking directly at Vargas. "I see them as the beating heart of this city. Titan Capital asks what the risk of our investment is. I ask, what is the cost of not investing in humanity?" His final gamble was to call Dona Elsa and 2 other entrepreneurs to testify. Their stories, told with raw and unwavering honesty, silenced the room and exposed the coldness of Vargas's model more effectively than any legal argument. The tide turned. The press coverage was massive, and public opinion overwhelmingly favored the Retomada. 5 years later, Diego observed the city from a new office. It was a vibrant, noisy, and lively collaborative space, the headquarters of the Retomada Foundation, now a national model of microcredit and social entrepreneurship that had inspired legislation protecting small businesses. Titan Capital, after a public relations scandal and a regulatory investigation, was forced to restructure its small lending practices. Ricardo Vargas was quietly transferred to an international division. Diego never designed a skyscraper again. Instead, he helped build thousands of small businesses, each a solid foundation for a family, a community. The scars of depression were still there, but they no longer ached with the same weight. He learned that the true architecture of his life was not about creating structures to hide in, but about opening spaces for others to grow. He still had his difficult days, days when the grey threatened to return. But now, when darkness approached, he didn't lock himself away. He would go down to the main floor of the office, listen to the sounds of conversations, ideas, and laughter, and remember that the strongest structure one can build is a community, and that its most lasting foundation is empathy. If Diego's journey of overcoming challenges and making an impact touched you, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to strengthen our community of inspiring stories. And stay tuned. In the next video, we'll tell the story that will change yours. You won't want to miss it.